Welcome to Quantum Relationships. I'm Lisa Jayne, and today I wanted to ask you a question. Have you ever noticed how similar the word reaction and creation is? I believe that basically we have a choice in any moment to react or to create. And the difference is how we manage our emotions. Of course, I was going to start talking about emotions, right? But you knew that, which is why you're here. So, what I've discovered is that if I can manage my emotions, if I can actually use them in this moment, if I can lean into them, I can use them to unlock creative potential. And by that, I just don't mean my potential to be able to make beautiful artworks or to do nice sculptures. I actually mean that I can start to consciously create my future into a much better version of what it is that I'm living right now. And this is a very present moment thing. So this is not a version of you that eventually develops over time, although that's true too. But it's almost like in this moment, I can be one version of myself, which is reactive. Or if I'm able to access the emotional power that is my birthright, really, through leaning into my emotions, I can also tap into and unlock this potential that I have in this moment to create a very different reality for myself right now. The reality could look like something that feels more empowered. It could be more clear. It could be the opportunity to see where I've actually been giving away my power, the opportunity to see where I've been abandoning myself for a long time and then actually take back my power. I start to be able to use this moment to consider how I can consciously create different moments in the future. This is really important when you're thinking about the childhood wound and how those loops continually keep happening. It's very, very important actually, because I can understand about my childhood wound, but unless I know how to lean into this moment and move into the next moment, the emerging moment, then I'm just going to get a repeat of that loop. The only way I can lean in and actually move into the next moment, the emerging moment that life is bringing me, is if I know what to do with my emotions. If I'm resisting my emotion, trying to control my emotion, freaking out from my emotion, trying to control it, basically, if I'm in reaction, I can't lean in, which means I can't access my creative potential, which means I can't actually come into a new moment. I just stay in this old repetitive loop. Now, you know what that feels like because you've probably experienced in your relationships dynamics that get set up. A dynamic of a relationship happens when I actually am not taking responsibility for the way I feel. And so I jump into my head and I create a dynamic. That could look like I'm resentful towards them, or I'm angry, or I'm frustrated, or they make me feel powerless. It could look like any of those things. And we might have a number of dynamics going with people. The thing is, though, once I learn how to manage my emotions and once I learn how to lean into my emotions and process them differently to what I've been taught, the programmed method of dealing with our emotions, which really doesn't help us at all. Once I learn how to do that differently, I don't have to get stuck in the loop anymore. I don't have to run a dynamic because I've dealt with my feeling. And now when I take action, I'm taking action from a really empowered base. I'm no longer acting from powerlessness or frustration in reaction, because when I take action from that place, I'm not going to get great results. Now, because I've been able to take responsibility for my emotions, I'm leaning in and I'm moving into a new moment. Now, in that new moment, there's a new consciousness, right? I'm actually in a different vibration. So rather than the vibration of, I am a victim of my circumstance and I can't do anything about this, and then we try endlessly to fix what's going on, but we're still in that vibration of having to do, having to fix, having to control. Rather than that, because I've learned what to do with my feelings and I'm leaning in and I'm moving with the emerging process of life, I've actually shifted my vibration. I've shifted my paradigm. I've shifted into a new dimension, which is why I call it quantum relationships, right? Because now I have access to unlimited potential. I don't know where this is going to go, but life does. Life knows exactly where I need to be led so that I can reap the greatest benefit from this experience. Life knows exactly where I need to be taken so that I can awaken more of myself up, so that I can take back more of my power, so I can be more of my authentic self in this moment. The intelligence of life knows that. And now, because I'm leaning in, now because I'm not frightened of my emotions, now because I felt my emotions and I'm able to move into the next emerging moment, I get to see a whole new reality. I get to see solutions that I never saw before when I was stuck back in being a victim to my circumstance. I get to see that now I can create more connection with this person in front of me rather than create more division. Because when you're in a reaction, the first thing we tend to do is blame them or hold them responsible or punish them or get angry. And so the first thing we do to deal with our feeling is we create separation. But that separation with the other person is only because we've created separation within ourselves. That's where the pain comes from. So here I am. I'm now feeling my feelings because I've got a new process. And because I've done that, I no longer feel separate on the inside. I've brought myself back into wholeness. I feel like a whole person. I feel empowered. And so I'm leaning in, I'm moving in this emerging moment, and my eyes are open and I have a lot of clarity, and I'm creating more connection because I haven't separated from myself. I'm creating a lot of connection with the people around me because I'm in my power. So when I can communicate effectively. I'm not communicating with undercurrents of blame or resentment. I'm actually here communicating with curiosity, with understanding, with love, with compassion, without abandoning myself, because otherwise I'd be back in a dynamic of relationship. So I'm absolutely honoring myself and I'm absolutely here for me, but I'm also creating connection with this person in front of me. I'm not accepting unacceptable behavior because that doesn't serve either of us. And I'm seeing potential for something different to happen in this moment. Don't know what it is, but I'm leaning in and I'm emerging into it. And I'm trusting that whatever's going to come out next is going to be absolutely perfect to take us both where we need to go. And I stick with that process. That is what a quantum relationship looks like. It's a little bit scary, right? Because first of all, you have to feel your feelings. What happens for us then is this feeling of overwhelm, or what if I get stuck in it? What if I never come out? And they're valid feelings because sometimes feelings can be really big. The thing is though, when I understand how to process my emotions and I can work with that emerging process, I develop this very deep-seated trust of life, because life wants me to actually move to a more connected, more harmonious moment. That is the purpose of life. And so I have to develop a good level of trust and faith until I start to see these results happening in my life. Now, what happens is the more I am here for me, the more I process my emotions and I show up for myself when I have a feeling, the more I trust myself. I trust myself because I'm not abandoning myself anymore. I'm not walking away from myself when I have a feeling. I'm not ignoring how I feel to keep other people happy anymore. I'm not putting myself down. I'm not doing self-dishonoring things to be accepted, to people please. So I'm actually here for me. This is self-allegiance. The more self-allegiance that I have, the more I trust myself. The more I trust myself, the more self-love I have. The more self-value I have. I'm a valuable human in this big game of life. And so when I start to lean into this emerging process, I know that I'm going to find new solutions. I know that I'm going to feel more connected to me. I know that I'm going to find more harmony and more growth. I'm going to expand my consciousness. I know that because I trust myself. I trust myself to care for me. And I trust life to care for me. And I start to see the reality of this every day in my relationships. What I see is that when I do this work, when I approach my life and my relationships in this new way, and it's new compared to what I was taught anyway, when I do that, I actually have this sense that there's something else helping me. I just don't have to do it alone anymore. I don't have to struggle. I don't have to fight. I don't have to force. If I'm leaning into this emerging process, there is an element of the life force that is working with me to create more harmony in my life. You might want to call that grace. You might want to call that spirit, whatever you want to call it. It's a thing. I've felt it. This is my personal experience and what I see happening in the lives of my clients. So I'm going to invite you in every moment that you see yourself reacting, remind yourself, really, you've just got to take the C out and put it at the front of the word. It's all about seeing. As soon as you see, you're creating instead of reacting. And you start to see the world not through the eyes of the wounded child, which is what's happening when I'm in reaction. This was a massive insight for me. When I started to realize, oh my gosh, I'm looking at the world through the eyes of my wounded child. And I knew that because I felt feelings that I used to feel as a child. I felt powerless, helpless, like I didn't know what to do, like I was lost, like nobody loved me, like I was all alone. I had no resources. I was just a kid. I couldn't even speak about what I felt because I was just a kid, right? I didn't have the words back then. So I know as an adult, when I feel those feelings, I'm actually in my wounded child. And I know as an adult that if I recognize, oh, I'm looking out through the eyes of my wounded child, I have an opportunity then to go in and integrate that aspect of myself, to take back my emotional power. And in this moment, to create a greater potential for my future than what I was doing in the past. So it's all about seeing, moving into creative potential, and seeing life through the eyes of truth, through the authentic self, creating more connection, more love, and more harmony. Sending you love.